I never believed in ghost stories. Not really. That changed last summer when I went camping alone in the Washington mountains. I needed to get away from my job, my phone, people. I found a quiet clearing deep in the forest, far from any marked trail, and set up my tent there. The night fell peacefully, just the sound of leaves rustling overhead. I turned off my lantern and tried to sleep. That's when I heard the voice. "Jason, come here." It was my mother's voice. Same tone, same softness, exactly how she used to call me for dinner. But she was hundreds of miles away, at home, and I was completely alone. I sat up, confused, thinking maybe I'd imagined it. Silence followed for a few minutes. Then, again. "Jason, I'm waiting." The voice was coming from just beyond the trees, behind my tent. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, but there was no one. Just darkness, trees, and the heavy stillness of the forest. I thought maybe someone was messing with me, but no one even knew I was out there. I went back inside, my heart racing. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, listening to every sound. Around 3 a.m., I heard something moving, slowly circling the tent. Not walking, crawling. I peeked through the mesh window. At first, I saw nothing. Then something low to the ground moved behind a bush. It was fast, too fast. And then I heard it whisper again, right next to the tent wall. "Jason," I froze. The whisper was right next to my head. I didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't dare blink. My flashlight was still in my hand, but I was too scared to turn it on. Whatever it was, it knew my name. It sounded like my mother, but deeper, slower, almost as if something was trying to imitate her. Then, slowly, I heard it dragging itself along the outside of the tent. I watched the fabric bend slightly, as if a hand or face was pressing against it from the outside. It didn't push hard. Just enough to let me know it was there. And then it started to giggle. That soft, breathy, childlike giggle didn't match the voice. It chilled me worse than the cold. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But all I could do was sit in my sleeping bag, completely still, as if movement would make it worse. I must have passed out from fear. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. Sunlight filled the tent. Everything was calm. For a second, I convinced myself it had all been a dream. Just my imagination playing tricks in the dark. Until I stepped outside. On the ground around the tent, the dirt had been disturbed. Something had definitely been crawling in a wide circle, over and over, and etched into the dirt. Right by the tent's entrance were the words, "I found you." I didn't stay for breakfast. I packed my tent in under 5 minutes, hands shaking the entire time. The forest was quiet again, almost too quiet. No birds, no wind, not even the usual rustle of squirrels in the brush. I kept glancing around as I worked, feeling like I was being watched. And then I saw it, just beyond the tree line, maybe 30 feet away. Something was crouching. It was tall. Too tall to be a person crouching that low. Its arms were long, too long, and the fingers looked like they touched the forest floor. I couldn't make out its face, but I knew it was staring at me. It didn't move. Neither did I. Then it tilted its head, slowly, as if curious. I took one step back, and that's when it grinned. Its mouth stretched wide, unnaturally wide, filled with small, sharp teeth like broken glass. That was enough. I grabbed my pack and ran. I didn't care about the trail. I just moved. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs went numb, until I hit a gravel road I didn't even remember seeing on the way in. I waved down the first car I saw. Didn't explain much, just begged them to take me into town. I've never been back to that forest. I never will. But sometimes, even now, when the wind is quiet and the night is still, I swear I can hear it. Whispering my name. I tried to go back to normal life, but something followed me home. At first, it was just little things. My phone would ring in the middle of the night. No caller ID. just silence on the other end. I'd hang up, and then a few minutes later, it would ring again. Always around 3 a.m. Then came the dreams. Every night, I'd see the forest. I was back in my tent, alone, and I could hear that same voice whispering just outside. But now it didn't say my name. It said new names I didn't recognize. And every time, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, convinced someone was standing at the foot of my bed. One night, I stayed awake, determined not to sleep. I sat up with all the lights on, watching the front door like a guard. Around 2:53 a.m., I heard scratching, not on the walls, not on the windows. Inside, turned around instantly, swinging the bat. Nothing was there, just empty space. But I felt it, cold air, like something had just passed through me. My skin crawled. I backed into the bathroom where the mirror was still fogged, the words still there. Say my name. I stared at those words for what felt like hours. Then I reached out and wiped the mirror with my hand. My reflection didn't move. I froze. It stood there, perfectly still, staring back at me. Its eyes were darker than mine, sunken, lifeless. Then it smiled, that same unnatural, wide grin I'd seen in the woods. My hands were shaking, but I didn't blink. I couldn't. I was terrified that if I looked away, it would come through. Suddenly, the reflection opened its mouth and said in a voice that didn't match mine, "You already said it once." The mirror cracked, not all at once, but slowly, like something was pressing against the glass from the inside. I stumbled back and fell into the hallway. Lights were flickering again, and every bulb in the apartment began to hum like electricity was building to something. Then all at once they blew out, pitch black. I scrambled to grab my phone, using the flashlight. The bathroom mirror? Shattered completely. But on the shards scattered across the floor, one word had been scratched into every piece. Jason. I didn't sleep at all that night. I packed a bag, left the apartment, and checked into the nearest hotel before the sun even rose. I told myself I just needed one night away, somewhere well lit, with people around, somewhere that thing couldn't follow. But I was wrong. I was barely in the hotel room for an hour when I heard it again. The whisper, coming from the vent in the ceiling. Jason. This time, it didn't sound like my mother. It was deeper, raspier, like the voice had been decaying. I stood under the vent, flashlight shining up, heart pounding. Then I heard scratching. Not just one source, multiple. As if something was crawling through the walls, I grabbed my keys and ran for the elevator. Pressed the lobby button a dozen times. The doors closed, but the elevator didn't move. The lights dimmed. Then, from the mirrored surface of the elevator wall, my reflection turned its head and looked directly at me. You shouldn't have run, it said. The lights came back on, and I was alone again. The elevator finally started moving, but it stopped on the second floor, not the lobby. When the doors opened, the hallway was pitch black. No sound, no lights. Just the softest whisper carried on dead air. Don't look back. I didn't. I kept my eyes forward, stepped out of the elevator, and walked toward the red exit sign at the far end of the hallway. But as I moved, I felt it behind me, breathing, close, grinning. And still, the voice begged softly. Just one look. I reached the exit door without turning around. I don't know how I made it. Every step felt heavier, like something was pulling at my spine. My hand touched the door's push bar. Cold metal. I held my breath and shoved it open. Light. Street sounds. Normalcy. I didn't look back. I ran. I didn't stop until I was in my car, miles away, engine running, doors locked. I don't remember how I got home, or how long I sat in the driver's seat before going inside. But when I entered my apartment, I noticed something immediately. The lights no longer worked. Every bulb had been unscrewed, not shattered, gently, one by one, as if someone had taken their time. My mirrors were covered with sheets I never put up. And on the living room wall, drawn in what looked like charcoal, was a symbol I didn't recognize. A circle with jagged lines cutting through it like a broken wheel, and below it, a sentence. You invited me. I don't go out at night anymore. I moved twice. Changed my name, but it still knows. Every time the clock hits 3 a.m., my phone rings once. No number. No voicemail. Just one ring. And sometimes, just before I fall asleep, I see it in the corner of my room, a shape too tall to be human, watching, waiting, still smiling. I never believed in ghosts until I camped alone in the Washington woods. Late at night, I heard my mom's voice calling my name, but she was hundreds of miles away. Something whispered, Jason, outside my tent, crawling, giggling unnaturally. In the morning, I found you scratched in the dirt. Back home, strange things happened. Silent phone calls at 3 a.m., eerie whispers, and a message on my bathroom mirror saying my name. My reflection smiled with a terrifying grin and spoke. You already said it once. Lights flickered, the mirror shattered, and Jason was scratched on every shard. I fled to a hotel, but the voice followed. In an elevator, my reflection warned me, you shouldn't have run. The final message on my wall read, you invited me. Now, every night at 3 a.m., my phone rings once. Something watches me, still smiling. If you want more chillin' stories, subscribe and like. Good night.